Hello everybody and welcome to this live stream. I forgot to put the image on. There it is. There's the Baku cat. I think they call him Matcha. So, what a qualifying today. And I think it's going to be a massive weekend. Yep, that's sorted. This aside. No, this always happens. I see some of you in the chat have started early already, which is also nice to see. Live My Life is completely ready for my live stream. Thank you, Live My Life. There's Inge. Hello, Inge. Eva is there. Unless she left already, because she was really early. And who else? Who else have we got? In the early... No, that's all the early ones. Like to like. Oh! Good call, Eva. I forgot to put my microphone where it should be. There's the lonely cyclist. Hello, Marty. Martin. Testing. Oh. Guys, I've planned it out this way. I'm not going to talk too much about the free practice sessions. I just made screenshots of the qualifying results. And I'm going to start with the lowest. And then I'm going to talk about what happened to the guy in P20 and then the guy in P19 and the guy in P18. I'm just going to go through all the qualifying sessions and have a story about every single driver from what I can remember. And then I think, that'll get us through the whole live stream. And then obviously we'll talk about my predictions for tomorrow, my expectations. And yeah, it'll be a fun live stream. Looking forward to tomorrow. And I'm really excited about the race tomorrow. And because it's 2 hours earlier than normal, we don't have to wait too long. I can go to the gym and then come home and boom, the show before the F1 race has already started. Because I always watch the F1 TV pre-show with Laura Winter and Jolyon Palmer. I enjoy that. Inge says Godwin. Okay. What do you think about my t-shirt? I bought this for the Dutch Grand Prix. Dutch Army supports world champion Verstappen. It was very cheap. Oh, Inge is watching F2 as well. 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. I should watch F2 and F3 as well, so I know which drivers will... I'll know the drivers before they get into F1. But I just don't have the time. Because when I'm not working, I'm writing videos and recording them and uploading them to YouTube. And when I'm not doing that, I still want my series that I like to watch and my films. And I also have a wife who I haven't seen yet. Samantha, are you there? Yeah, and I've got 2 kids, or we've got 2 kids, so I'm busy enough. So I'm just gonna chat for for another couple of minutes to see who else is coming in. Hey, there's a new name, Rom. Hello, Rom. Can you tell us where you're from? Where are you from, Rom? And there's Christina, one of our most loyal members of this channel. Um, always happy to see you, Christina. And I'm sorry about Ferrari today. But yeah, you know, I have to apologize every live stream because they're always doing weird stuff. Okay, what time is it? It's 8:05. Hey! Hey, Samantha. Had you already called in? Yeah? Sometimes I'm. Oh, yeah! There's Samantha. Oh, and there's another guy called Hacker V1650. Also a new name. Nice. And there's Ivan. Hello, Ivan. Christina wants to put herself in a barrier too. It's just a game, you know? And I've heard that next year will be Ferrari's year. So you've got that coming. Right, I'm going to get started. So I have this slideshow here. Yes. And I made it shine through. Oh, wait, other hand. See? I can even point things out. Behrman, Colapinto, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Gasly, Albon. Okay. Okay, so let's start with Alex Albon. Hey! Hacker just sent me a super thanks. Thank you so much, Hacker. I don't know what currency that is. But it is very much appreciated. Aoife says, next year's our year. Yeah, Ferrari hopium. So, what currency is that, Hacker? Thanks again. Okay. So, the first red flag during qualifying was from Alex Albon. He qualified in P20 because of it. And all he did was chip the inside of a corner. And yeah, that ruined it for him. It wasn't a massive shunt or anything. But what's extra annoying about it is that Williams has really good top speed. And, you know, they were expecting a lot from Williams. And you can tell by where his teammate put the car. But we'll talk about that later. It's expected that he will drive himself into the points. That's what James Vowell said. So yeah, if the race pans out properly for him, and you know there's a bit of hanky panky in the front, you know, a couple of cars maybe don't make it to the finish in front of Albon, then yeah, we can see him climbing into the points. Now, he's actually not P20. He'll be starting P19, but I'll tell you why that is also later. But now we're going to Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly, in his shitty Alpine, was taking a lot of risk. And, well, he didn't take any risk in that turn where he went straight through to not crash. But that annoyed or disrupted Franco Colapinto, and Colapinto crashed the car properly. And that was a pretty nasty crash. You know, it looked pretty bad. And oh, Hacker, Indian rupees. Nice. So, Samantha, write that down. Hacker is from India. Thank you so much, Hacker. Namaste. Is that Indian? I don't know. Yeah. Pierre Gasly and Colapinto. Ah, he's also a member. Awesome. Another member. Nice. Welcome to my members club, hacker. Okay, I always kind of lose my trail of thought whenever I get super tanks and memberships. I'm not used to it, but I'm very happy. Okay, so Pierre Gasly, because of the red flag and everything, he couldn't set another time, so he was P19. Then we get to Esteban Ocon, and this is something I needed to tell you. Esteban Ocon, his Haas car got tested after qualifying, and I think they tested it with that little rolly thing, you know, that they roll in between the wing, the space in the wing, and it was too big. And we've seen that before with Lewis Hamilton in Brazil in 2021. So his car was disqualified, and he needs to start in P20 now. So so yeah, Albon and Gasly, they will be actually starting in P19 and P18. Then we go to Nico Hulkenberg. He also crashed, making the car look like oh god, like a Caterham from the 2000s, and he did manage to get the car back to the garage, and he got a new wing, and then the time he said, yeah, was 17th, not fast enough to get into Q3. Nico Hulkenberg kind of blamed that he couldn't set up the car to get his mediums to run properly. But yeah, I think as he's getting older, he's kind of losing his qualifying speed, because his teammate, his rookie teammate, is running away with that championship, or that battle between the two of them. But let's see what they can do in the race. I think Sauber has dropped off a little bit. Itchy. Sauber has dropped off a little bit since since a couple of races. So don't know what's happening there. Then we get to Franco Colapinto, and I heard Eva already, or I read that Eva said that Colapinto will be replaced by Aaron Paul next season, and I think that's the case as well. You know, Flavio put Colapinto in that car to get all that cash that Colapinto sponsors were willing to give, but yeah, Colapinto hasn't done enough to prove his worth to give him a full-time seat again next season. So, you know, it's a pity for the guy, because, yeah, you know, he's great. He's got great support, and he's a nice kid. But, yeah, I don't think he's good enough, especially with that Alpine being as bad as it is now. I remember at the Zandvoort Grand Prix, we were at the Q&A with the drivers on Saturday morning, and he got onto the stage with Pierre Gasly, and certain parts of the crowd where all the Argentinians were just exploded. Like, they made so much noise. And then he got a microphone, and he just started yapping in Spanish, and he just wouldn't stop. And then Ariana Bravo, the presenter, asked him something in English, and he just answered in Spanish, just went off on one. And Pierre was standing there, laughing. So, yeah, he's a great character, Franco Colapinto. But unfortunately, I don't think he's going to stay in F1 much longer. And then we have Oliver Behrman, who DNF'd. I remember watching that car going slow, and then I noticed that his car was kind of crooked because he had hit the wall, and he was going slow, and he had to stop it. Um, yeah, that looked weird, but yeah, he's a rookie, and the conditions were really, really bad. It's just it was slippery, really windy, and then the field is so tight together that they all pushing like mad. Um, these guys are driving these cars and they're looking at their deltas, and there there's not one sector where they can sort of slow down, um, saying like, "Oh, I've got enough margin, I can take it a little bit easier." They all have to go flat out, and that's why we saw so many accidents. Right. So that was my first image from the slideshow. I'm just going to click that away now. And now I'm going to go to the chat, see what all I've missed. Okay, so Samantha, my wife, is congratulating Hacker for coming into our family. And there's Fibbidibit. Hello, Fibbidibit. Welcome. And Inge says, can we do a bet on the amount of red flags in the race? I think this calls for a poll. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. How many red flags for the race in Baku? 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, Martin, that's great that you're raising the membership. And I also thought when you had like Mavadelo and Lonely Cyclist both as members, I thought you were going to drop one. So I totally expected it. And remember, we're going to have that coffee. Ivan, you're asking me, do you agree that those who cause red flags should be penalized, same as for impeding? They make unforced errors and ruin the attempt for everyone who's on a flying lap. Harsh but fair. Let me see. See, I like new rules coming in to improve the quality of racing. Now, I think if you start punishing drivers on top of them qualifying in a bad position and the team being angry for crashing a car, if you start punishing them on top of that with grip drops, then I think drivers will be extra careful, and that won't improve the qualifying sessions, because we all want to see um, them go flat out and put everything on the line for that quali lap. So I don't think we should punish drivers on top of crashing. Now, there are situations where drivers have accidentally crashed a tiny little bit because they were ahead of their competitors. They had pole position and then, oops, you know. Schumacher was punished for that, and Nico Rosberg just went off on the run off. I think that was also Baku. Or no, that was Monaco. Um, yeah, those cases should be punished harshly. So, say if you crash in a session and you benefit from it, while other drivers are being stuck in shitty positions, then I think there should be a punishment. But only in those cases, which is very hard to monitor. So yeah, it's hard. Um, Yeah, Christina, I agree exactly with you. A DNF is punishment enough. Mm, mm, Eva says 2 red flags, one for each McLaren put into the barriers by a Red Bull tomorrow. You really don't like McLaren, do you? Yeah, exactly, hacker. That's what I was saying. Um, no, Ivan, I understand your question, and it's a totally legit question. And it was kind of ridiculous that the 20 best drivers in the world managed to cause 6 red flags. But yeah, the wind was very hard. I think at some point it was like 65 kilometers per hour, and that if that suddenly appears in your rear, then braking has no point. But yeah, it's always amazing how it doesn't seem to affect Max. Then there are cars that are more sensitive to drag. I think the Williams car is usually more sensitive to drag, so that could be it. But anyway, I've handled everything in the chat. I will go back to my screenshots, and then when we come back, I'll have a look at the poll we made about the red flags. Okay, so I have to go backwards. Yes. Oh, Bearman we already discussed, yeah? Yeah, see, 15 was already on it. That's okay. In 14, we have one of the best drivers on the grid, according to Fernando Alonso and Adrian Newey. And everybody at Aston Martin agrees that Lance Stroll is one of the best drivers, potential world champion. And this man managed to get beaten by Gabriel Bortoleto also in a green car, but a different shade of green. Yeah, so he's starting P14. I think the count between Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll in qualifying is something like, does anybody know? Is it like 42 against 0? Something like that? Something crazy? Can somebody Google that? Yeah, and then Gabriel Bortoleto, he outqualified his teammate again, but he was very disappointed that he couldn't make it into Q3, which is kind of amazing because that Sauber isn't very good, and he's a rookie. So I think we're spoiled this season with the quality of the rookies, like Ajar having a near enough perfect season, scoring a podium. Antonelli is in a very high pressure situation in the Mercedes team, being hailed as, the new Max Verstappen, and then, he has to deal with all that pressure, and he wants a bit too much sometimes. But also scored a podium. And then there's Bortoleto, who keeps out qualifying his more experienced teammate, and I don't know, scored like four times in 5 races, although that's kind of stopped now. And then what's the other? Oh, and Oliver Bearman, who scored like a bunch of points in a Haas. And with Haas, they always start really well, and then they drop off when all the other teams start upgrading more. So, yeah, we're blessed with the rookies we have. Right, then to somebody who's not a rookie, who's actually the second most experienced driver on the grid. He drives for Ferrari, and it's Lewis Hamilton. Now, I kind of missed what was happening with Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari. I just thought, his first lap got kind of disrupted by Leclerc going off. And then when he had to do a second lap, he just wasn't quick enough. But I researched it a little bit. And apparently he was asking to be put on mediums, but they kept giving him softs. And then he did that last fast lap on softs that were 5 laps old. But anyway, Team LH is fuming and they're blaming Leclerc. Even going as far as that he went off on purpose in front of Lewis Hamilton. They're blaming Ferrari because they're sabotaging Lewis Hamilton and they're favoring Leclerc. And Lewis Hamilton, he said he was gutted about it all. And he said, strategy's working really well, but he was ready to put the car on pole. But then they gave him the wrong tires, so it wasn't his fault. I'd like to hear your thoughts about it, and if you guys experienced it the same way, because I was watching other stuff. I don't know. I kind of missed all the drama, but I picked this up from Twitter. Let me see. I even asked if people could help me out here. Nope, nobody did. Okay. Okay. What the hell did I do? Yeah, so that's the Lewis Hamilton story. I'll go to the chat in a minute because next one up is Fernando Alonso. P11 barely missed out on Q3. The Aston Martin I don't think was brilliant in Baku for some reason. And it's unfortunate that this happened. And then we have Charles Leclerc, who took a little bit too much risk. Stepped on the brake a tiny bit later and then locked up and went straight into the pillows or into the barrier. And I was hoping for him to say, I am stupid. I'm so stupid. But he didn't. He didn't want to repeat himself. So so that's the Leclerc story. The guy who put it on pole for 4 years in a row is in P10 now. And then we have Oscar Piastri, the leader in the championship. And this is spicy, but maybe he's starting to feel the pressure of being in the lead and then, everything coming closer and closer. Like the race tomorrow, if they score an easy 1-2, then they have the constructors in their hand. And for some reason, that's putting pressure on them because they didn't perform so well, Lando and Oscar. So it'll be an interesting race looking at the McLarens. I don't think they're going to nail the constructors tomorrow and then they'll go, yeah, well, we'll get it next week. And they probably will. Or next race. But, I don't know. We've been spoiled with the last few champions because, they executed, Max and Lewis, they executed things far, far, far better than what the McLaren duo is doing. And, we haven't caught Oscar Piastri on many mistakes. And he lost points to Lando Norris a couple of times, which was unfortunate. But if things go wrong for him tomorrow, then he'll lose a good chunk of his lead, and that will put pressure on the next race, which I hope that will happen. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say about Oscar. He's always being hailed for being so cool and calm and collected, But yeah, these mistakes do come from not being 100% sharp and cool and collected. And you have to be when you want to be a world champion. And then in 8, there's Isaac Hajar, which is unbelievable, but he's the first of the 4 Red Bull affiliated drivers. And normally he's the second of the Red Bull affiliated drivers, but this time he's the 4th one. Still brilliantly managed to qualify in P8. And seeing his race pace and his grid, I think he might gain a couple of places as well, especially if there's a little bit of stuff happening in the front. But yeah, we'll talk about the guys on the front row and just behind the front row in a minute. But yeah, I'm happy with Isaac Hajar and his P8. There's so much to look forward to tomorrow. Amazing. Right, so I worked through this one. Let me put this away. And then let me see, where was I with the chat? Okay, Eva, Bastard Operator from Hell, says, how did you know? And she's probably answering, you really don't like McLaren, right? That's pretty much where I was. Yeah, Christina is still talking about punishing people for intentionally causing a red flag. No, that is very hard to prove. The Lonely Cyclist says, ridiculous that wind can be such a big factor for some and not for others. Yeah, well, it just depends on how draggy the car is. Hacker says, someone to me suggested to me that each driver should be given a clean track with no one on it and given 3 attempts to judge the best driver for positions. And I don't think it's a bad idea. Well, I think it's a bad idea because the conditions of the track, they change all the time. So who goes first? You want to do that through a lottery? That doesn't seem fair. Do you want to do it based on the positions in the standings? So all the slow teams have to go first when the track is still green? No, that's not fair either. So I think how qualifying is organized now, that doesn't need any changes, except that teams need to keep an eye on, not driving too slow and not making it to the starting flag in time. That's something that has happened a few times. I think in Monza, there was one occasion where like 5 or 6 drivers didn't make it to the starting line in time because they're all holding each other up, looking for a gap. I do get your point, though. The fairest thing would be if you just let them drive 3 fast laps and then take the fastest lap out of those 3 laps, and they can't impede each other, and everybody has the same sort of conditions. But unfortunately, the track conditions do change, and if there's a drop in temperature, if there's more rain coming, those people that have been slotted in later in the qualifying, they're all fucked, and that's not fair either. So I think the Q1, Q2, Q3 way it's been organized is the most fair. So anyway, that's my idea on it. Fibbit says more rain, more red flags during rain. Thanks, Inge. Inge wants me to do the Stroll impression. Dad, turn off the rain. It's from Lollipop Man. Ivan said Stroll would probably be the best driver in the world, but we all remember the real one, Mazepin. Yes. And Eva says Kimi outqualified his teammate too, and he's of a different caliber. Yeah, that must hurt George. Coming in this weekend being sick, not being able to talk to the media, that must have hurt him. and then now being outqualified by his rookie teammate. Hacker says Kimi was on a medium. Yeah. Yeah. Russell is ill this weekend. Hacker says that tire overall on the lap was consistent. Yep. Okay. Martin, the lonely cyclist, he's looked up the data about Alonso versus Stroll in qualifying, and it's 54 against 9, and it's 54-17 in the race. And Alonso had quite a few more DNFs than Stroll, so otherwise it would have been different. Okay. Hacker says, how Ferrari screws their driver is just shocking at this point. I have no idea why was Lewis on 5 lap old softs. Christina says, Leclerc on mediums had no grip, especially when it started raining. Mediums wouldn't save him. No, that's true. Like, especially with it being so rainy, I think those soft tires with already a few laps on them, at least they were warm and gave him more grip. But yeah, he just wasn't fast enough. Lewis Hamilton. What else? The lonely cyclist is talking about Alonso versus Stroll as well. 16-0 in quali and 8-3 in races. Yeah, that's massive. Christina says, I don't think 5 lap old softs were the problem because in free practice drivers were doing their fastest laps on 5 laps old softs. Yeah, I've seen that as well. They, even though it's C6, they lasted quite a bit. Inge says, I don't think Oscar feels that pressure. He's cooler than Elsa. Right, well, we'll see tomorrow. And Hacker says, I think the rush to set a lap as fast as possible before God knows when another red flag could happen made a lot of people stressed while putting in a lap. Exactly. Everybody was stressed except Max. And there's another new name. The Woden. Hello, the Woden. Ha! Oscar doesn't feel that pressure. Ben did. I'm just trying to give it a little bit of color. What you just wrote. And then Eva says, Blundo again, crumbled under pressure. Let's see how the Mumtakalat boardroom is going to fix this tomorrow. Okay. What you're saying about quali attempts happened in Suzuka 2005. And Samantha Cyclist, did Wimbo answer your question about the stars or did he miss it? Sorry, went away to make tea. I haven't seen anything about stars. Okay. Yeah, for those kind of questions, just talk to Samantha. She's my moderator. Okay. Let's go to my last screenshot. There we have it. Right. So, Oscar Piastri binned it and qualified in P9. An excellent opportunity for Lando Norris to put it on pole and gain a lot of points on his title rival, Oscar Piastri. So what did he do? He drove a very sloppy, yet kind of careful lap and qualified in P7. Now, on Twitter, there's a load of people with 4 in their username with Lando Norris yellow colors. Just like the Max fans have like orange in their background, you see a lot of the, that spicy yellow, that poison colored yellow that Lando Norris has. So if you see a username, like Maria4, she's one of the Lando girlies. And they were actually praising Lando Norris for not taking any risk, for realizing that his championship battle is with Oscar Piastri and not with Max and all the other drivers. Yeah, and they praised him for it for going out first without a tow on the worst track and not taking the risk of a red flag, somebody crashing in front of him. And yeah, that he put it in P7, that was just unfortunate. I totally don't agree with this because if you want to be a champion and you have so many points to gain, you need to grab these opportunities. And it's like last year in 2024 when he was trying to gain on Max, yeah, in a faster car, in a more balanced car. And what did he do? Over 6, 7, 8 races, Max even outscored him, even when the car wasn't working for Max. Brazil, Max in P17, Lando Norris on pole. How did they finish? Max P1, Lando Norris being led past Oscar Piastri twice because he slid off the track, finished P6 or P7. So yeah, I don't think there's any hope for Lando Norris to overtake Oscar Piastri unless Oscar Piastri DNFs twice. Because like tomorrow he has the opportunity to make a big gap, in the standings. Like Piastri P5 and Norris winning the race. That's like, I don't know, 20 points or something. That would really help him in the championship battle. But no, he kind of bottled it again. Hitting the wall twice and just sliding and sliding over the track. He probably didn't warm up. His tires were good enough. I don't know. But yeah, it was a bit of a bottle. Oh, guys, I forgot to finish this. So half of you guys think it's gonna be 2 red flags. 17% thinks 1. 3% thinks 17. Oh, they're all the same. Right. Let's do another poll. What? Oh. What? Hmm. 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 So here's the next poll. Polly. Okay. In P6, we have Yuki Tsunoda. And this is actually something I'm really looking forward to. Yuki Tsunoda said that during the free practice sessions, he learned how to lean on the tires a little bit more. He's found something that made his race pace a lot better. Now, this is what I want to see because he usually qualifies in P10 or P12 or P14. And then even if he has great race pace, he can't, show it because there's all these slow cars in his road. But now he has George Russell in front of him, which is, well, pretty much the same speed as he is. And Antonelli, I think the Mercedes, is just as quick as the Red Bull, so they won't bother him too much. And yeah, I'd be happy if he gains a place or two, and then he finishes P4 or P5, and that would be absolutely brilliant for Yuki. And then if Max wins the race, they gain like 40 points. And that would see Red Bull maybe gain a position in the standings again, which would be nice, just for the looks of it, you know, because that P4 that doesn't look right for Red Bull. So yeah, hopeful for Yuki Tsunoda. George Russell, he's ill. Um, he is quicker than Antonelli, so I'm expecting some team orders there. And like, Kimi, let George by because he's quicker than you, or, you know. I don't think they're gonna let them fight each other, especially with Kimi Antonelli already having caused so many crashes. But yeah, you know, it would be nice if Antonelli ticked off Verstappen, DNF, and then ticked off Leclerc for a DNF, and now Russell for a DNF. That would be awesome. So let's see what happens there. I think I said enough about Kimi Antonelli, although it would be cool if he keeps his position as well, you know, and stays in front of Russell. The kid needs that as well, you know, he needs a bit of a win. And then in P3, we have Liam Lawson, the guy who's in F1 not to make friends, but to win. And tomorrow he's starting on the second row. And it just shows that Racing Bull can be a really good car in certain occasions, making the midfield fight also really interesting, because Racing Bulls, Aston Martin, and is it Sauber? Yeah, they're all really close to each other in the standings. So the fight for P5 is on. But yeah, Liam Lawson, you know, had a rough season. 2 really bad races with Red Bull. Then he was demoted. Then it took him some time to, you know, get up to speed. But yeah, this is really a highlight for him, and I hope he can stick with it, because I like Liam. I think he's a cool dude. I don't know if he has enough to be a top driver, but he's a cool dude. So I hope he does well. Now, Liam Lawson is a little bit crash prone, always touching other drivers with the car. And another driver who's been in plenty of incidents that he gets the blame for, and then, you know, the punishment gets reverted to the stewards after the race, and then it gets dropped. And that's Carlos Sainz. No, Carlos Sainz. Yes. So yeah, I hope he doesn't fight with Max, because Carlos is a little bit wild. And I hope he doesn't take Max out. In fact, I hope those two drivers will fight each other, you know, Carlos Sainz and Lawson, and that they hold the whole group up, because they're fighting like mad and nobody can get past. That would be awesome. And then Max could just drive to the finish, and everybody behind him can just do whatever they want. So yeah. And then Max Emilian Verstappen. Ever since Laurent Mekies is in charge, that team has had a full transformation. How they tackle the weekends. On Fridays, they turn up the car more than they used to, just to get the right data. Laurent Mekies is asking more straight to the point technical questions that the technicians can work with, whereas Christian Horner as CEO, he couldn't do that because he wasn't a technical guy. And Max is happy, the Max camp is happy, and that makes the whole of Red Bull happy, and that's what we want. I believe the pole time that Max said was also quicker than the pole time last season, which is kind of amazing because the conditions were really bad. Now, I know the cars have become quicker, and that's why we see these records. But yeah, very impressive that Max Verstappen, in these conditions where everybody's crashing, he doesn't even have a wobble. He just And he wanted to do it on mediums, but they didn't have any fresh mediums left. So they gave him a pair of fresh softs. And he made do with them, and he was brilliant. So yeah, that's my whole list. And I can go now. Let me go back to the chat. Okay, Inge says Lando Chloris. And a chloris, that is a Dutch word for, well, a clumsy person. Yeah. The Woden says, this is like Braun GP season with 2 B-level drivers going for the championship. Now, that's interesting that you mentioned Braun GP. There was no team orders in Braun GP. So Barrichello and Button, they started the season getting along with each other just fine. But then at some point, they both realized, hey, we're fighting for this championship, the two of us. And things got nasty. And I think it should. Because being a championship situation, it might be the only opportunity you get in a lifetime to become world champion. And that's why I don't like what's happening at McLaren. Because both Lando and Oscar are saying, yeah, I want to drive for this team next year as well in the coming seasons. And I want to win championships with them. So they're kind of already expecting that McLaren is going to be just as fast next season and they're going to win more championships. But first of all, there might be another team way quicker. And second of all, the guy who wins the championship is going to get a boost in confidence as well. Yeah? Like, the driver who loses is going to be mentally a little bit weaker. Like, if Lando Norris loses this championship, he's going to be worse next season. Yeah? But if he fights Oscar Piastri with everything that he's got, even playing dirty, and he gets closer and closer, and he might get it, and he'll come out as the victor, then he'll be ready to do another championship next year if the car is good. And if the car is bad, the McLaren car, then at least you have that championship. And you won't be looking back 20 years from now saying, yeah, I could have won in 2025, but I didn't because I listened to the papaya rules. Fuck that shit. So yeah. Braun GP, those two guys both went for it, and Jensen Button in the end was better, and he won the championship, and he will forever be the 2009 Formula 1 champion, which is amazing. And Barrichello will always be the guy who was the second driver to Michael Schumacher and never won a championship. That's all he'll ever be. So, yeah. Okay. Hacker says that's a great comparison. The Lonely Cyclist thinks it's going to be 6 where Lando Norris finishes. And Samantha says DNF for Norris. Samantha, you have to stop this. It's not like you to hate on a driver. Pippin a bit says Norris will end in turn 5. So the two of you are on the same level. Christina says, I believe at least one McLaren will get on the podium. Last year, Norris started P16 and ended P4. Okay. Inge shouted disqualification. Okay. And Eva says Blundo DNF. And Hacker says, I just want McLaren double DNF so I can make a McLaren clown edit. And where are you going to post that, Hacker? On your Twitter page or your YouTube or your Instagram threads? Let me know so I can look it up. Inge says, Fib, a bit dramatic. Lol. And Martin says, fun fact, Lawson has 20 points, Yuki has 12 points. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we know the second Red Bull is a struggle for all of them. And Hacker says, and Max championship back. Yeah. That would be amazing. McLaren 2 DNFs and Max creeping closer. Inge says, triple crown for Kimi. I expect Kimi torpedo Antonelli tomorrow. Yes, as long as he doesn't do it to Max. Hacker says, I was wondering if next year Merck is a championship worthy, then would Merck make Kimi the sacrifice like with Bottas for Russell? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think either of them are like second drivers, but yeah, we'll see. I think all the rookies are going to smash in that tight spot. Could happen. Not badly, but enough. But enough or repeat it. Yeah. And then Martin says, for a minute I hoped Sainz would get that pole, but then realized Max would have started P7 in that case. Oh yeah, that was when it got really wet. And there's Luda RL. Hello, Luda. How are you, Wimbo? I'm concerned that Yuki won't have a place for the next 2 years after this result. But P6 is not a bad result. The results over the whole season were bad. That's why he might lose his seat. And I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. And Eva says, Liam's got a point. If you want to make friends in F1, you'll end up with the freakiest friend list possible. True. But he also said that he wanted to win. And so far that hasn't happened. But yeah, who knows what happens tomorrow. Hacker says, I don't think Sainz will push Max. The best thing to do for Sainz is he to defend like Hippo and not be overtaken so he can try to secure a podium. That is actually spot on. Sainz just needs to hold position and then score a podium for Williams, which would be amazing. Christina says, I have a feeling turn 1 will be brutal. Oh, I'm already getting nervous. And the Lonely Cyclist says, 16 watching, only 3 likes. Get with the program, folks. Thank you for that shout out, Lonely Cyclist. People, if you like cycling and you want nice relaxing videos of somebody cycling through the most pretty places around Utrecht in Holland, follow the Lonely Cyclist. There. I propped your channel as well. Inge says, Laurent Simsalabim Mekis, doing the magic for Red Bull. I love it. Christina says, Williams will deploy their strategy and Carlos will end up behind Albon again. Ah, please, no. Stop inventing. Stop inventing, Christina. And Inge says, already done, cyclist. Nice. And Ivan says, yep, Williams needs to stop inventing. Hey, that's the joke I just made. Except that you made it way earlier. I don't know what that's about. And Ivan says, I would like to see Max winning tomorrow, but even more, I wish him to win in Singapore, as he hasn't won there so far. Okay. And Ivan says, oh, I think he will win Singapore. That would be first. Yeah, Max winning Singapore, that would be brilliant. Okay, Eva has a bit of information about what happened at Braun. Now. Button got preferred treatment at Braun GP. Rubinho never stood a chance. Okay, well, the only information I have is from the documentary with Keanu Reeves and a YouTube video about the whole thing. That preferred treatment wasn't mentioned, or maybe I've forgotten it. But I need to dive into that then. The Lonely Cyclist says poll time last year was 1:42.775, and this time it was 1:41. I think I can get that up here. Yeah. 1:41.117. So that's a second and a half quicker in really shitty conditions. Well done, Max. Okay. Someone says, haha, I'm glad I'm not the only one being like this about Lando. Okay. Okay. Ivan says that it was 1:41.3. Okay. Okay. Samantha says, in honor of Matcha the Cat, I'm just hoping for a cat lover winner. So Max or Alex for the surprise win. Okay, let me stop this poll. And what does that say? What position will Norris finish tomorrow? Most people think 23. Think P3. Some people think P2. Okay. And nobody thinks. Oh, and other people shouted other stuff. Yep. Okay. Hey guys, it's 9 o'clock. We flew through this. Very good. Yeah, hacker, that's my problem as well. The championship fight feels really fake and nah. But hopefully tomorrow things will change. Because they're pretty close to each other. And pitting will be really weird with cars in front of them and cars in the back of them. Like I remember Max qualifying in those positions, and then before you knew it, boom, he was at the top level again. But I don't know if that's gonna happen tomorrow. Okay, guys and girls, that was a lovely stream, and it went nice and quick. Keep an eye on my community tab tomorrow. Now, there's a new feature where you can post things on the community tab as well, right? So you go to my YouTube channel, then you go to posts, and then if you press community, you can post your own pictures or questions or stories or whatever. And I'd love for you guys to do that on MySpace so we can have a little discussion there, you know. And yeah, I haven't written any videos yet. I'm just letting this weekend inspire me, and then I'll pop out 2 videos in the next week. I'm glad my views have gone up because my McLaren video did 1300, which isn't great, but it's much better than all my previous videos. And then the Max Verstappen video did 1800, which is already a win as well. So, yeah. I'm going to bid you all a farewell and have a lovely Saturday evening. Enjoy the race tomorrow. Take care now. Doei.